You now move further along the attacker's path. In the previous lectures, you learned how attackers get code to run and how unpatched applications open doors for them. In this lecture, you focus on one of the most abused and misunderstood attack vectors in modern cybersecurity, Microsoft Office macros. This strategy exists because attackers repeatedly succeed by turning everyday business documents into weapons. To understand why macros matter so much, you need to start with how normal work happens. You receive emails every day, documents, spreadsheets, invoices, reports. These files feel familiar and safe because they come wrapped in tools you trust. Attackers know this. They exploit that trust by embedding malicious instructions, called macros, inside documents that look completely legitimate. Macros were originally designed to automate repetitive tasks. They can calculate values, format documents, or process data automatically. From a business perspective, they are powerful and convenient. From an attacker's perspective, they are a built-in programming engine sitting inside one of the most widely used pieces of software in the world. That combination makes macros an extremely attractive attack vector. The Australian Cybersecurity Centre includes macro configuration in the Essential 8 because macro-based attacks are not rare or advanced. They are common, reliable, and effective. Many ransomware campaigns, credential theft attacks, and initial access operations begin with a document that asks you to enable content or enable macros. Once you do, the attacker's code runs with your permissions. You should understand that macro-based malware delivery is rarely obvious. Attackers invest significant effort into making documents look convincing. They use branding, familiar language, and social pressure. The document may claim that content is hidden for security reasons or that macros must be enabled to view it correctly. This is not a technical failure. It is a human one, and attackers exploit it relentlessly. Once macros are enabled, the damage can be immediate. The macro may download additional malware, establish persistence, steal credentials, or give the attacker remote control. At that point, many other security controls are already under pressure. Antivirus may not detect it. Users may not notice anything wrong. The attacker quietly moves on to the next stage of the attack. This is why secure macro configuration focuses on prevention, not detection. Instead of trusting users to always make the right choice, you configure Office so that unsafe macro behavior is blocked by default. The principle is simple. If a document comes from an untrusted source, its macros should not run. This removes the attacker's ability to rely on persuasion and deception. Secure macro configuration does not mean disabling all macros everywhere. That is a common misconception and one of the reasons organizations resist this control. The goal is not to break business processes. The goal is to restrict macro execution to trusted controlled scenarios. Macros that are genuinely required can be signed, centrally managed, or restricted to known locations and users. At lower maturity levels, organizations may start by blocking macros from files downloaded from the internet. This alone stops a huge percentage of real-world attacks. At higher maturity levels, macro usage is tightly governed, digitally signed, and monitored. Over time, the organization moves from reactive exceptions to intentional macro use. Balancing security and business productivity is critical here. If security controls make people's jobs impossible, they will be bypassed. You need to acknowledge that some teams rely on macros for reporting, finance, or automation. The answer is not to ignore risk, but to work with the business to understand where macros are truly required and where they are simply convenient. This is where maturity and communication matter. You introduce controls gradually, explain the reasoning, and provide alternatives where possible. Many organizations discover that macros are used far less than they assumed. or that safer automation options exist. Over time, macro usage often decreases naturally once risks are understood. User education plays a supporting role, but it should never be your primary defense. Training users to not click or be careful is helpful, but attackers are very good at creating convincing content. Education should focus on awareness, not blame. Users should understand why macros are risky, what warning signs to look for, and how to report suspicious documents without fear of punishment. From a human perspective, this control works best when users feel supported rather than restricted. Clear messaging, such as macros are blocked to protect you and the organization, is far more effective than silent failures or confusing error messages. When users understand the why, they are more likely to accept the how. Measuring success in macro control is not about counting how many macros are blocked. It is about observing reduced exposure to document-based attacks, fewer security incidents triggered by email attachments, and greater confidence that opening a document will not lead to compromise. Over time, macro-based incidents should become rare rather than routine. As you step back at the end of this lecture, you should clearly see how this strategy fits into the broader Essential 8 journey. Application control limits what can run. Patching removes known weaknesses. Macro configuration blocks one of the most effective delivery mechanisms attackers rely on. Each strategy reinforces the others, steadily shrinking the attacker's options. In the next lecture, you will continue this progression by exploring strategy 4. User application hardening, where you will see how everyday software features, browsers, PDFs and plugins are abused, and how reducing attack surface can dramatically improve security without disrupting normal work. Before you move on, I want to ask you for a small but meaningful favor. If you are finding this course valuable, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment. This is a free educational channel. It costs you nothing, but your subscription and engagement make a real difference. They help this channel grow, reach more learners, and continue producing in-depth content like this for everyone.